In the turquoise waters of the Bay of Bengal lies a tiny, emerald gem, North Sentinel Island. From above, it looks serene. Satellite images show a lush, jungle-covered isle with white sand beaches fringed by coral reefs. But this paradise hides a deadly reality. Here lives the Sentinelese, a fiercely isolated tribe that repels all outsiders. In fact, Indian law forbids any vessel or person from coming closer than 5 nautical miles to the island, recognizing that this is their final sanctuary. No ports, no settlements, only dense forests spilling to the sand, backed by a forbidding reef. The result, as one observer notes, North Sentinel is terra incognita, virtually unmapped except by satellite. North Sentinel is surprisingly small but majestic, roughly 8 kilometers long and 7 kilometers wide, around 60 to 70 square kilometers. Its terrain is almost entirely flat and covered in dense tropical rainforest. A narrow band of white sand beach rims the coast. Beyond that, coral reefs spread out in shallow turquoise water. Early surveys describe only 2 landforms, the forest and a 36-hectare swamp in the interior. There are no clearings, no fields. The whole island, except the shore, is a green blanket of jungle. If seen from above, Sentinel looks like a green fortress ringed by reefs, inviting yet impassable. In fact, the reefs often keep boats grounded on the surf, making any approach almost suicidal. Even modern satellites and aerial photos show only the outline of the land and its trees. There are no human-made structures to be seen from afar. The only inhabitants are the Sentinelese themselves, one of the world's last uncontacted peoples. We know almost nothing about them beyond a few glimpses. Estimates of their population vary wildly. An Indian helicopter census in 2001 counted just 39 individuals, 21 men and 18 women. But later observers think there may be 50 to 200 or even a few hundred on the island. The Indian police recently suggested about 150, while NGOs say 50 to 100 is likely. All agree the exact number is unknown. Whatever the count, the Sentinelese maintain an utterly Stone Age existence. They are hunter-gatherers who use only stone tools, wooden spears, and bows and arrows. Remarkably, early anthropologists noted they apparently lacked the ability to make fire and had no words for numbers beyond 2. They paddled dugout canoes in the shallow lagoon, spear fishing and harvesting coconuts, but that's all outsiders ever see. No outsider has ever entered the interior or lived among them. We don't know their language, their name for themselves, or their beliefs. Satellite and helicopter overflights do catch glimpses of them moving about, spearing fish in ankle-deep water or patrolling the shoreline in silent canoes. But whenever anyone draws near, the islanders make their stance clear. They shoot arrows. As National Geographic reports, the Sentinelese have repeatedly attacked approaching vessels, spearing boats, and even firing at low-flying helicopters. In one filmed expedition, a Coast Guard chopper hovering off the reef was greeted by a hail of arrows. Clearly, this tribe wants and expects absolute isolation. Over the years, a few tragic encounters have fueled the island's fearsome reputation. The darkest chapter came in January 2006. 2 Indian fishermen, Sundar Raj and Pandit Tiwari, were illegally hunting crabs when their boat drifted on a Sentinel shore. In the pre-dawn light, they were ambushed by Sentinelese warriors with bows and crude axes. Both men were killed almost immediately on the beach. Their bodies were later found buried in shallow graves on the sand. Even a rescue helicopter that arrived was attacked with arrows, proving the point. This island does not tolerate visitors. A second high-profile incident happened in November 2018. John Allen Chau, a 26-year-old American missionary, paid local fishermen to take him within sight of Sentinel. Sneaking ashore in the early morning, Chau left a bag of fish and even a soccer ball as peace offerings. But the Sentinelese reacted as usual. Chau was hit with a volley of arrows almost immediately after stepping on the beach. His own diaries, later recovered, described being chased off with arrows despite his pleas. Chau's body was never recovered. Indian authorities forbid anyone else from entering the island, so the tribe's lethal defense went undocumented. India's official stance was to not pursue Chau's death further, viewing him as an illegal trespasser. The pattern continued even in 2025. In April, Indian police announced the arrest of an American tourist after he briefly set foot on Sentinel's forbidden shore. 24-year-old Mikhailu Polyakov had brought only a coconut and a can of Diet Coke as gifts and stepped ashore for about 5 minutes to leave them. A GoPro camera on his boat recorded the entire excursion. He blew a whistle to attract attention, laid down offerings, scooped up sand samples, and then retreated before anything could happen. Despite his stealth, authorities promptly detained him. His brief, harmless landing nevertheless violated the strict ban. These incidents, fishermen slain, missionaries killed, tourists detained, underline the island's rule. Any approach is met with force. India treats North Sentinel as a sacred no-go zone. The island is legally designated a protected tribal reserve. Under the 1956 Andaman and Nicobar tribal laws, all travel to Sentinel is prohibited, and no one is allowed within 9 kilometers, 5 nautical miles, of the shore. The Indian Navy and Coast Guard routinely patrol the waters around Sentinel, enforcing the cordon. Even when New Delhi experimented with opening up other Andaman islands for tourism, Sentinel remained off-limits. In 2018, North Sentinel Island was briefly removed from the general visa permit zone, but in practice visitors still need clearance from multiple government agencies, forest, tribal affairs, environment, and security, just to approach the area. Official policy is simple: leave them alone. The government explicitly recognizes the Sentinelese desire for isolation. In fact, India's tribal welfare authorities say they will not prosecute the Sentinelese if they kill an intruder, seeing it as self-defense. The local police chief reiterated this stance in 2025. All Indians and foreigners alike are banned within 5 kilometers of the island to protect the tribe from disease and preserve their way of life. After each incident, authorities have arrested the would-be visitors, not the islanders. In April 2025, the U.S. tourist was put on remand for violating the law. Survival International and other NGOs have praised India's hands-off approach, warning that any contact could be catastrophic. Uncontacted tribes have no immunity to common diseases like flu and measles, which could completely wipe them out, as one NGO director warned in 2025. Internationally, most experts agree that North Sentinel's isolation must be respected. In the wake of every intrusion, human rights groups emphasize that the Sentinelese are a unique and vulnerable tribe. The consensus: do not interfere. This island is not open for tourism or evangelism. It is a forbidden land by law and by the tribe's own demands. Even hardline preservationists describe the Sentinelese as among the planet's most committed practitioners of what one journalist called digital detox, analog lives so disconnected that outsiders only see whoops and shouts from the hunt when passing by. In short, India has drawn a firm circle around Sentinel, and the world largely applauds that boundary. With every new approach rebuffed, North Sentinel deepens its aura of mystery. Who are these people, and why do they defend their islands so ferociously? Anthropologists have their guesses. DNA studies of Andaman tribes suggest the Sentinelese may descend from some of humanity's oldest migrations, perhaps a lineage that branched off around 50,000 to 70,000 years ago. In other words, the tribe might preserve traits and genes that stretch back to the dawn of humankind, making them, in a sense, living relics of our prehistoric past. Their lifestyle certainly seems Paleolithic. They have no agriculture, no metal, no domesticated animals. Colonial-era accounts even reported mythic skills, or lack of them, like not knowing how to make fire or having no concept for numbers beyond 2. Speculation also runs to their psychology. Perhaps centuries of outside contact, even traumatic ones, such as slavery or disease from castaways, taught them that all visitors are deadly threats. They responded to every approach as if it were an attack, shooting first, asking questions never. Why else defend a lost world so violently? Survival International has even warned that if outsiders return to rescue lost castaways, they could inadvertently annihilate the Sentinelese with germs. For now, however, these ideas remain conjecture. We literally have no interpreter, nobody to ask these people what they think. We don't know their name for the ocean or their gods or the laws that govern them. In the silence of Sentinel's jungle, the big questions echo unanswered. Why did one of the planet's final holdouts of Stone Age culture vanish into a strict quarantine, even in a globalized era? Will their isolation last indefinitely, or is it only temporary? Some students of the island warn against romanticizing the tribe, digital detoxes, or eco-savages, because we have almost no factual insight. All we know is what we've seen from the waves. A small band of islanders stalking their home with bows drawn whenever anyone appears. That is the real message. North Sentinel still guards its secrets fiercely. Its final chapter is unwritten, protected by law and by lethal arrows alike. Some mysteries, it seems, are not meant to be solved, especially when the treasure is an entire people who demand to be left alone.